since we're using all the stuff B for her, let's make her from Brazil. Okay? Andy met Beth on travel to Rio de Janeiro. Okay? They met, they fell in love, they've talked online, they've done all kinds of things like that, and they have decided that it's in their best interest to get married, and Beth wants to come live in the United States. So the option that they have chosen is a fiancé visa. You can get to get a fiancé visa, first of all, we've got to show that Andy is a United States citizen and that Andy and Beth intend to marry within 90 days. The visa, when we get through all of this, Beth gets the visa, which she will because otherwise the talk will be a lot shorter, will only be good for 90 days. They have to get married within 90 days of the date of entry. Okay, we have to prove that both Andy and Beth are free and available to marry. In other words, that Andy's not already married to somebody else, and that if either of them were previously married, that those marriages have legally ended. Okay, so we can't, no polygamous marriages, no, all previous marriages had to lawfully end. The immigration law now does allow for same-sex marriages, okay? So if either one of them was a different sex, we follow this exact same process. That doesn't matter anymore for our immigration rules. Okay, now we have to show that they met at least once within 2 years of the date of filing the application. There is an exception for that, and in 20 years of doing this, we have never successfully gotten the exception. The exceptions are that they could not possibly meet in person, either because of religious or society rules. Okay, there are a couple of religions that do not allow the parties to meet beforehand, or that they were physically unable to meet. In other words, Andy could not leave the United States to meet her. The fact that it would be difficult for her to get a visa to come here, difficult for Andy to leave for work, it's expensive, on and on and on, those reasons aren't sufficient, okay? Now, they've met in person, they've decided this is the way they want to go and do this, all right? The way they do this is they file a form with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. Those are the people that handle immigration here within the United States. Andy has to show he is a United States citizen. He has to show that any previous marriages had ended. We need pictures of him and of her to submit. We have to show if there were any name changes, those name changes were legal. Here in the state of Ohio, we are allowed to change our name for any legal purpose without going through and filing with the courts. Immigration can sometimes give us a little bit of static about that. They want to see some kind of court record to show it. We've been able to get it through without having those court papers in the past, but they prefer the court papers. Okay, we have to prove anytime that Beth's been here that she's been lawfully here, she hasn't violated her status, anything like that. If she has, that could cause problems for her getting the visa. Okay. Now, once we put all of this in a package and we send it off to immigration, it's taking immigration about 5 months to go ahead and process it. Once they have processed it, they don't reach out to Andy, they don't reach out to Beth, although they could. They simply go through the paperwork, do all of their background checks and everything like that, and send that. Once they approve it, they send it to a place called the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is like a clearinghouse for the consulates. It's where all the information goes. They make sure that everything's proper, they start a case file for it, and then they shoot it out to the consulates. Okay? They only have the paperwork for a couple of days to a week. Then they shoot it out to the consulate. Once it's at the consulate, Beth needs to fill out a document online. We have gone to a wonderful electronic age, and the Department of State has their forms electronically. So they have to be filled out online, and their forms are only in English. which is a problem because, believe it or not everybody here in the world speaks English, right, ladies? All right. There are, if you put the mouse over the box, there's a help box that is in the native language that the computer's set for. Not the best system, but it's what we've got right now, okay? Beth is going to go ahead, fill out that form. We've got a bunch of documentation to get to her that she's going to take to the consulate. Andy's going to have to fill out an application that he promises that Beth is not going to go on any type of public assistance while she's here. Beth is going to have to present her passport. She's going to have a medical exam. She'll have to submit any divorce decrees, anything like that, police certificates, more pictures, more evidence of her relationship, and money, okay? Everything within the whole immigration complex is paid for by filing fees. This whole thing about this great immigration cost on the taxpayer is not correct. It is all paid for by filing fees, all right? Minimum filing fee for the fiancé visa is going to be $160, okay? It can go up because we have treaties with other countries where we agree, hey look, we'll charge you this much for this visa, you charge us that much for your equivalent visa. Okay. Now, when all of that has been submitted and Beth has her interview at the consulate. All right, we've all seen in the news how scared everybody is about people coming in from other countries and doing bad things, right? It's a legitimate concern, okay? There are people in the world who are not nice people, okay? Not everybody wanting to come here is bad, but there are some people out there in the world who are not nice. When my wife and I had our interview for her to come to the United States, it took about 30 minutes. In this new wonderful world of technology and heightened security and all of that, the State Department set out a cable on implementing heightened security. And it says in part, in order to ensure that proper focus is given to each applicant, posts should generally not schedule more than 120 visa interviews per consulate officer per day. Okay, so if we're doing the math, and a consulate officer, let's say that they're working 8-hour day, we're not going to give them bathroom breaks, we're not going to give them lunch because we're meanies. That gives them about 4 minutes per interview. Okay, but that is our heightened security. Okay, now, for the interviews, there's always a question, hey look, should Andy go be at the interview with Beth? Brazil's a far way away, and it's expensive, and he's got to miss time for work, and their plane tickets, and hotel rooms, and all of that other good stuff. Some hosts want to see the petitioner go be there, be available to answer questions. Most of them don't, okay? Even if the petitioner goes there, the post will be required to interview Beth one-on-one for a brief amount of time to make sure she knows what she's getting into. That is very important. There have been people here in the United States who have brought people over on fiancé visas and other visas for nefarious purposes, okay? They interviewed my wife and asked her by herself and asked her if she knew what she was getting into with coming here and all of that. She did not know what she was getting into. I took her from Honduras in February, where it was about 90 degrees, to Montana. So, consulate officer didn't tell her about that. Okay. Now, congratulations. Beth has got her fiancé visa. Everything's going great. It's wonderful. Yay team, etc., etc. She wants to come into the United States. She will have her visa and her passport. It is with one entry into the United States. She'll give that to the Customs and Border Protection officer when she comes in, along with the big envelope. She can't open the envelope, she doesn't know what's in the envelope, yet she's carrying it from one country to the United States and giving it to the Customs and Border Protection officer what's in there is all the papers and everything from her interview with the State Department. Now, Beth is here, everything's great, all they gotta do is get married and everything's simple, right? No. Beth also cannot work right now. She is here on a fiancé visa. The law allows a fiancé visa applicant to go ahead and file for a work card, so it should be no problem, right? Fiancé visa, if you'll remember, good for 90 days. Work card application takes 90 days to process. So she can pay the government the money for the work card application but never receive it. But when she files for the adjustment of status, which is